But anyway, but the next match, and before we talk about old Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, and Christian Cage, when he challenged for the match last week, it was a no rules match or anything goes or however they termed it, right? Fight. It's what they wanted. All of a sudden, it was a casket match.
No, it was not a casket match.
Well, what the was it when they put the guy in the casket?
They did not call it a casket match once. Well, what did they call it? What was it? Did have a name. It wasn't Buried Alive because they couldn't use Buried Alive. They can't use casket because they
had a Texas death match that wasn't a Texas death match, so they had a casket match. But I don't know what the fuck but it's a casket match. Actually, a casket Buried Alive match because the casket wasn't at ringside. The casket was near the entrance stage, surrounded by a graveyard full of dirt and a shovel. So the question is...
It's the final burial match.
Well, goddamn it, that...
Because they've both been buried so badly with this feud, it's the final burial.
I don't know, though. I think Baron von Corbin should have pioneered this fucking concept. But what I'm saying is on Wednesday night, they challenged for the match, right? And they didn't say anything about this. And suddenly the fucking match comes up in the pay-per-view and it's a casket Buried Alive final burial match. When did this happen? How did this take place? What was the reason for this? But did they get in a fight in a graveyard?
Remember I told you there was a Jack Perry promo I saw that was very dark and ominous and he was like in the shadows and it was smoke and looking back now or thinking back now, he may have had a shovel. Maybe he was digging.
Well, yes. And there was the promo on TV that popped up on the screen where he was, digging. But they didn't say anything about this match was going to contain any of these elements on television when they challenged for it, accepted it, announced it, which was just 5 days ago. I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here, but all of a sudden they come out, well, there's a casket. There's a graveyard.
Maybe they didn't know if they'd be able to secure as much mulch as they needed.
Well, no, that was dirt. That was you city boy. That wasn't mulch. Anyway, they started with a hockey fight, which was the same way that Jericho and Starks started out, but this one looked better because it had more energy. And do me a favor, look up what is the age difference between Chris Jericho and Christian Cage? Because, boy, there's a fucking visual difference in how they move around, and Christian is the one that I'm praising here.
Christian is 3 years younger.
Okay. So Christian Cage is a fucking top heel, and when we get through this, I will explain what I thought about the finish, but he bailed and ran into the bleachers, and Jungle Boy caught him, and they had the fight in the crowd. And then, he runs to the stage, but then, oh my God, I'm close to the coffin. And they have the fight on the ramp. But Christian kept this interesting, and he kept Jungle Boy on him, kept him coming, kept him aggressive, set it. I mean, obviously, this was, again, a Christian Cage production in terms of who's directing traffic in this thing on the spot. And it, again, every time that Jungle Boy has a legitimate, experienced fucking heel that he's working with, he looks great. And every time he gets in with some greenhorn or his trampoline friends, he's a shits. But he's got the talent, but he has to be led. He can't have a match on his own. We've established that. Or he can't have a match on his own because of his worst instincts with people that he's friends with. But anyway, Christian, what a fucking heel. He starts the heat. His work is great. And I made the note that he needs to be in Jericho's spot. And not just to get young guys over. To get young guys over, but I'm not saying to put them over. I'm saying to get them over. To work programs with them that get them over. To have matches with them that teach them things. And because apparently, Jericho's lost his mind and Christian still has possession of his faculties. again, and he keeps it interesting. Jungle Boy makes comeback with a dive, and he beats Christian up on the floor. But Christian stops him with that leg sweep on the stair deal. And Christian was busted open a little bit hard way, but you can't, it was an accident, obviously. You can't fault anybody for that. But he gets mileage out of whipping Jungle Boy with the belt. And the people are going, ooh, and Jungle Boy's selling it. And it's whipping with a belt. It's not potential paralysis, diving through furniture. And the thing that they did in this was they took a preposterous scenario and stipulation, and they still, from start to finish, and I tip my hat to Christian on this, because if it was Jungle Boy, he'd do it more often. They kept it to where it looked like a fight. It wasn't ridiculous. They didn't do silliness. They didn't do shit you couldn't live through. They didn't abuse furniture. They didn't have barbed wire boards in the cemetery, because every cemetery has barbed wire boards, just like every wrestling arena doesn't. They had a shovel, so they used the fucking shovel, and they didn't use the shovel like they use the baseball bat or Jericho does or whoever the fuck. They actually swung the fucking shovel like you're trying to hit a motherfucker with a shovel. They kept it to again, they made the preposterous. They kept it looking like a fight, and you could at least work with them on the fact that there's a mound of dirt and a fucking casket back there. And finally, Christian opens the casket and pulls chairs out of the fucking coffin. See, I don't usually say coffin because I got Trey Yokozuna scared of those words like that. And they have a big fight by the gravesite. And again, I'm like, why didn't they advertise these stipulations? And Jungle Boy did a big cannonball off the stage onto Christian and went to use the chair, but Christian kicked him in the balls. And their shit at least looked good, and they gave time to register shit. And finally, he goes to put Jungle Boy, Jungle Jackoff, whatever his fucking name is this week, in the casket, close the lid. Jungle Boy blocks it, fights out. Little heel throwing the dirt in the eyes by Christian and hit his finish on the dirt, and then tried for the concerto. But Jungle Boy moved and swung the shovel at the chair. They were having a fucking fight. It sounds preposterous, but they were making it fucking work. And then finally, Jungle Boy gets a snare trap with the shovel as the crossface, and then sets up the concerto. And I loved everything, actually, until the concerto, which I still just ridiculously offended by because you can't make it look real. The guy has to lay there. Brain should splatter. But he did the concerto, put the Christian in the casket, and closed the lid after a very long milk, because Jungle Boy is still conflicted about all these violent emotions he has. And when he closed the fucking lid of the casket falls through the trap door and disappears. And people, oh. So they pulled it off. To me, it was second best thing on the show, but of course that's faint praise with what we're going to come to shortly. Your thoughts, young Brian?
I'm surprised by your review. I really liked it. I didn't know how you would take to it. But like you said, it was, in a sense, a ridiculous stage. I mean, it was a stage. They were up there on the stage, and all of a sudden there's dirt, not mulch, and the shovels, and there's a grave. The exit where it falls into the ground was kind of cool. But it worked, and it was intense, and you got into it, and them being dirty and beaten made it look even cooler. I really liked it. I can't say anything really too bad about it. It was better than the feud. It was better than everything we've seen in this feud the last several weeks. And if they were going to do a casket match, a coffin match, final burial match, they had to do more to set this up, because this could have been a selling point. And it wasn't. I didn't even realize this was what it was until it appeared on the screen.
And I said I was going to comment on the finish. And all things being equal in normal wrestling, etc., I have no problem with Jungle Boy beating the heel, and, he's a babyface, right? The problem I have is that Christian Cage is so fucking good, and they need top heels too. Everybody talks about, they need a top baby face. They need Punk back. They need top heels too. They need top talent. And every time that they have given Christian any length of time to talk on television, he's immaculate. And every time he has a match, I know he's been injured and had that injury that was long lasting or whatever. Apparently he's fine now. This was fucking great. I think they should have put him over, and I think they should move him into the upper echelon of the singles fucking mix to get not only some new blood, and I'm sorry that he's, late 40s and his new blood, but new blood in that picture, and at the same time, better matches.
Hey, remember too, though, Christian had several years off, so he doesn't have as many bumps on his bump card as other people do.
Well, and he's smarter with them.
And he's a smart worker, so with those two things together,
yeah,
it's not crazy.
And he takes care of himself, and I don't know that he's ever had any bad habits like many other people. So again, he can do everything they need somebody to do right now. They should be, but Jungle Boy is where Jungle Boy is going to be. I think we've established that. He can't talk. He don't want to talk. He's interesting with some people. He's just another flippy-do with other people. But, it's been a while. Maybe he needs to go away so we can miss him. And so, obviously, I would have put Christian over because I would be moving him into the top of the picture, but it was a good deal no matter what. And then the problem becomes, as we're going to start finding out, following shit and making anything different. Because now was that the second match or the third match? Wait a minute.
Second match on the main show.
Second match. They've fought all around the arena. They've swung shovels at each other. One guy got busted open hard way. And a fucker's been thrown in a coffin and fucking launched into the garbage chute. So now we're not even halfway through the show.